You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Well, it looks like there's a new trend on TikTok with people pretending to be drunk Kamala.
You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
It's pretty funny, and if you're a part of the Democratic political party machine right now, you'll be drinking a lot too, especially looking outside of the DNC and seeing a huge, tremendous protest happening right now against the current regime that is in power and their foreign policy regarding a very specific country in the Middle East that is very inconvenient to the current rulers and wannabe rulers like Kamala Harris that clearly is going through a lot, to say the least, as even the welcoming party to the Democratic National Convention was just crashed by a protester with a mask on stage that took over the microphone and literally declared that the party is responsible for
150,000 people are dead.
that, of course, is a lot of people, as the protests are soon about to begin, and they're expected to be major protests with tens of thousands of individuals that will be filling the streets of Chicago, as a lot of them are blaming the Biden-Harris administration for the current situation unfolding right now in Gaza. An atrocious situation, a horrible situation that is mirrored in a lot of horrible allegations against the current country that the United States is backing and supporting fully, as there's a lot of legitimate concerns about the future of this country. And if there ever was a wedge issue that's dividing the Democrats, it is this very specific issue. It is, in my opinion, why I believe the Vice President of the United States picked a running mate that isn't as qualified, isn't as good, because the other guy wasn't in that particular military that the United States is currently backing right now. This as, of course, the Democrats, who also routinely call for the defunding of police, are surrounded by a lot of them, as it does look like the Chicago police departments, as well as many other police departments that have been called in all around the United States, are gathered at the Democratic National Convention in absolutely huge numbers, as the Daily Mail is reporting that Chicago is flooded with police officers that will definitely be having a handful of issues that they will be dealing with, as even the National Guard has been deployed and mobilized in the region, seen patrolling, as this is a major security event that, of course, it definitely does look like the Democrats are taking very seriously in a major Democratic stronghold city, as the optics are not going to be too convenient for them. And if you're the Democrats, you're really hoping that this situation doesn't get out of hand, because it will take away from all the news that's coming from the DNC. As, of course, we got our first sights at the protests and what's developing right now on the ground from Timcast News, highlighting a very interesting mix of feminists, LGBTQ individuals with Free Palestine flags that are now marching in tandem together. Not the usual alliance of individuals, as, of course, those ideologies usually clash, but this time they're standing together in Chicago, where a lot of these people are announcing that we can't just vote, that they need their voices heard now more than ever, and they need to organize, mobilize, and to protest. Now, left-wing protests usually have a tendency to be a little fiery, but mostly peaceful. Will this one erupt in some chaos? Well, I bet there probably will be some skirmishes, some clashes, as, of course, I previously covered another kind of national security event in Chicago before, and the Chicago police are known for being corrupt and heavy-handed. And there probably will be a few incidences that might or might not take away from all the celebratory corporatist establishment shindigs inside of the convention center, as Michelle and Barack Obama are some of the top speakers that people will be hearing from. As today, we also found out that Joe Biden will be, of course, addressing the crowd at the DNC today, and then leaving the convention right afterwards, not staying for the remainder of the days there, not even being there for Kamala when Kamala is, of course, going to be giving her speech, which highlights how he might still be kind of angry at the current kind of forced transfer of power that was probably done very undemocratically. There's also a chance that Kamala wants to distance herself away from the current administration that she's a part of, as of course it's been an absolute failure for the American people, especially financially, especially with many foreign policy just endeavors that have wrecked and destroyed diplomacy and brought us ever so closer towards a full, all-out destruction of the world that we of course are all facing because of the Democrats. This as Hillary Clinton and Kathy Hochul will be addressing the crowds later on today. We, of course, will be live for all of it here on thebestpoliticalshow.com, as, of course, we're going to have a live podcast throughout the proceedings as we're going to be watching all of it as it happens. Michelle, Mike, Obama, and Barack will be speaking Tuesday. Bill Clinton and Tim Walz will be speaking Wednesday. And Thursday, of course, will be the cackler-in-chief, Miss Kamala Harris, who will be on stage. As, of course, in the making of this video, she is getting and receiving some of the best media training in the world right now, as a lot of people will be doing their best to try to swallow the Kamala pill that for so long they have resisted. As, of course, just a few weeks ago, she was a candidate that was seen as extremely unpopular, as someone that, of course, wasn't able to win this election for the Democrats. And now she's their kind of greatest hope. Now she's the person that, of course, they're running with, they love, they adore, and their next savior against Orange Man, who's bad. This as Kamala is just being roasted right now for her latest word salad about the, quote, duality of democracy, as she described democracy as, quote, both incredibly strong and incredibly fragile.
As a democracy, we know there's a duality to the nature of democracy. On the one hand, incredible strength when it is intact. What it does for its people to protect and defend their rights, their liberty, and their freedom. Incredibly strong and incredibly fragile.
Yeah, I can't wait for another four years of that. Holy cow. As of course, that's the time that she went off script. She wasn't reading from the teleprompter. And yeah. As of course, it's fair to say that American foreign policy is incredibly strong and fragile somehow at the same time. As of course, it is very perplexing, as the Biden administration has been making very significant flip-flops surrounding the issue of what's happening in the Middle East right now. We saw them verbally try to push back against one particular country while also giving that one particular country all of the aid, all of the money, and essentially a blank check to do whatever they wanted to do with, as there are now multiple reports of the Biden administration specifically going to Benjamin Netanyahu and saying, hey, we really would like this and this done. Please do not do this. Please respect our wishes. We're giving you all of the money. We're financing this entire conflict. Please be respectful of our wishes. And then all the reports are coming in of Benjamin Netanyahu doing the complete opposite of that, while also still getting the blank check, as of course he has been an extremely polarizing figure inside of the Middle East, even inside of his own country, where of course many people protest and dislike his political leadership that they are under. All of this, as of course it looks like our current Secretary of State is doing everything in his power right now to try to calm down tensions in the Middle East. That would of course also conveniently calm down protests inside of Chicago, as he is there talking to Benjamin Netanyahu and other political leaders of that country, trying to organize a larger ceasefire here that, was derailed a little bit, as the chief negotiator for the other side was literally blown up to smithereens inside of Tehran. That left a little blemish, as of course the other side is saying, no, like you guys are literally blowing up our negotiators. No, and they were offered up a ceasefire deal, which they officially have declined as of yesterday. This, as the Secretary of State is now warning that this could be the last opportunity for a ceasefire to happen here on his 9th visit to the region and territory. As, of course, the situation there is very complex. It is very divisive, as Blinken's comments here are pretty big, as he describes this as a very decisive moment for the future of the Middle East. And it looks like there's going to be a lot more conflict, a lot more war, a lot more protests, and protests that, of course, will now have more ammunition more than ever, as, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu's government and military is being accused of horrible actions against prisoners that include, of course, hurting them in many unspeakable ways, as there are atrocities after atrocities. There are human disasters that are being carried out in the Middle East right now that are absolutely awful, as there are a number of human rights violations that I believe should be taken seriously. And I don't think they ever will be, as the United States is still providing a blank check for this, also somehow financing and using my tax dollars to fill off the coffers of both sides here. As, of course, if there was a ceasefire right now, if the Biden administration was able to sort out some kind of deal here, all the protests would stop. Protests that are echoing the protests that happened in 1968. That was also extremely chaotic, as a lot of people are expecting the same chaos to, of course, be met in the streets of Chicago and also potentially even inside of the convention hall. As The Hill is writing that these protests do threaten to overshadow the DNC, as, of course, this is their PR marketing week that they get to provide their agenda, their message to the entire world, and more importantly, the people of the United States that they're trying to get to vote for them. Now, we, of course, will be following these protests very carefully, as I think they are extremely important to what's happening right now in our current discourse, as already many businesses have boarded up their businesses. Some people are expecting riots, looting, and violence. Hopefully, we could all avoid that, as it's also important to note that these protests weren't as significant as they were at the RNC. I was there at the RNC. There was a couple protesters. There was one big kind of protest day that a couple hundred people came out, but looking at the official numbers of what we're seeing right now, there's a big difference between the protests that happened at the RNC and, of course, that are happening right now at the DNC. As the protesters are literally screaming things like "Killer Kamala" and, quote, "DNC go home," or "we will bring the conflict home." As Politico reports that the Democrats arrive in Chicago lacking a drama. This, as Savannah Hernandez has her reports of what she heard and saw on the ground that contradict that a little bit. Now, as the conservatives are now sharing clips alleging that Kamala is a drunk. Now, whether she is a drunk or not, I think they're also missing a keen opportunity here that they could be taken advantage of, talking about this specific issue, talking about the human rights violations from a perspective that is rational and not centered towards any kind of bigotry that would allow the fostering of a real political conversation that would be beneficial around this entire scenario that would, of course, galvanize, motivate, and mobilize a lot of individuals to actually go out there and try to fix it. As if I'm the Republicans right now, if I'm the conservatives right now, I wouldn't be talking about her alleged alcoholism. I would be talking about her stance about the country in the Middle East that, of course, she is being very quiet about. She hasn't really said anything about that. She, of course, is still an unknown politician about this very divisive issue that will make or break her campaign. Now, the corporate media will always shill for her and not demand questions be asked from a legitimate, honest perspective, as, of course, the New Yorker has this very biased political cartoon on their front page. But the propaganda isn't working on many that are now currently protesting right now in Chicago. Again, I think what they're protesting is a legitimate issue. I think as a political party, Kamala needs to give an answer to where she stands on this very issue. Will she give that answer? Nope, probably not. That will spur on more protests, more people angry at the current situation. It's clear. Where do you stand? What country are you with? What's your official position here? Where do you stand on the current situation that is happening right now in the Middle East? A question that I think is worth asking, and if you agree, share this video with your friends and family members. We return, and we will be doing live coverage of the DNC on this YouTube channel as we will be live streaming the proceedings on youtube.com/wearechange. You got Josie the Redheaded Libertarian coming on. We have Roger Stone coming on as well. That's going to give us commentary on the situation that, of course, is unfolding there. Stay tuned for that. Click subscribe and the notification button. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys, and this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on youtube.com/wearechange. One more video for members coming out right now on lukeunfiltered.com. You're a member, log in right now. I got a great video that is extremely beautiful that I'm releasing right now just for members. Members get to call into the live show. You can talk to Roger Stone. You can talk to Josie the Redheaded Libertarian. You could have talked to Billy Carson. You could have talked to, of course, Russell Brand. You could have talked to Rob Schneider if you were a member of lukeunfiltered.com. Sign up. It's more and more than ever that, of course, you guys get to do that. I love you guys. Wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. Stay tuned for more.